What's up, Pisstown pals? This is District Sentinel Radio, the newscast of record for the left. I'm Sam Sachs.
I'm Sam Knight.
We are broadcasting out of the Sentinel Fort in Washington, D.C. Check out the website, districtsentinel.com. Happy 420 to everybody. Smoke them if you got them.
So, Trump's dick is back in the news.
Oh, great. Just like the 90s all over again. A president we just can't stop talking about their dick.
I think in this case, this is overdue, actually.
Overdue.
Yeah, because we're owed a fact check from the Republican debates.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Trump proclaimed on stage that there's no problem down there.
Yeah.
There are reports that there is some sort of a problem down there, though.
Yeah, The Guardian apparently got a hold of an advance copy of Stormy Daniels' forthcoming book, and she describes the president's wang as similar to Toad from Mario.
Toad.
From Toad. You got it up there? You had it up? Put it back up. There we go. For those of you who are only listening.
I mean, Toad, I never really thought about it till now, but Toad does look like a dick.
He looks like a dick, apparently. Someone's dick, according to Stormy. The president's dick.
Yeah. That was some interesting news today.
So if you're only listening and you don't subscribe to the live feed, you wouldn't know this. We put a picture of Toad up there. These are the perks you get.
Touch Toad
When you subscribe. You're going to touch Toad. Now Sam is touching the little Toad image in the bottom right corner of the video feed.
All right, let's get Toad off there. We got to get Toad off
Right.
All right. Okay.
Let's make it a little less visual. Anything left on Trump's dick? Have we covered our bases?
No, I think we covered it.
No, we didn't.
Oh, the Yeti pubes.
Yeti pubes.
Yeah, whatever the fuck that means. We do not have a graphic of Yeti pubes.
Another
also
description in the book, to be clear.
Yeah. Also today, we had Marco Rubio have a meltdown on Twitter and violate their terms of service with targeted harassment against Salt Bay. This is the greatest of all possible timelines, folks.
I feel like there needs to be a lot of explanations for people who aren't on Twitter.
Yeah, Salt Bay, the guy.
But at this point, to follow the news, to like really follow the news, you kind of have to be on Twitter.
Yeah, you have to be extremely online.
You have to be
nowadays.
very, very online. And so I don't really think we need to go in the background here. I think
everybody knows.
Everyone knows what's going on here.
Rubio also has apparently asked the Department of Justice to launch a probe of former Secretary of State
John Kerry,
who's been meeting with Iranian officials just like on his free time. Because I think him and Javad Zarif are friends, actually.
Probably.
I wish I was friends with Mr. Zarif. Anyways, Rubio says that this is a Logan Act violation. This reminded me of that time that Tom Cotton wrote a letter to the Iranians as President Obama was negotiating the nuclear deal with them, and that prompted Democrats to call for violations of the Logan Act on the Republicans. Rubio signed that letter too. So he went from once being accused of violating the Logan Act to now launching accusations of the Logan Act. The Logan Act and the Hatch Act are just such political things to accuse people of.
If you're accusing people of Logan Act violations, you may have lost the argument.
Yeah, definitely. We also got Elon Musk facing a criminal probe.
Yeah.
This is
in relation to his tweets.
Yeah, this is in addition to the previously reported civil inquiry with the SEC about, I guess, Musk perhaps misleading investors or inflating the price of his stock by claiming he was going to take it private.
Yeah,
without any real intention of doing so.
Right. I think the intention part is key here, and it rises to the level of a criminal probe if they think they can prove that Elon Musk said someone was going to buy his stock at $4.20 for some reason to deceive people, to intentionally deceive
because
people.
He was high online.
and wanted to own short sellers. And indeed, the stock value rose
Yeah.
to
that's the
$379 a share.
Tesla has admitted that they have received a document request from the Department of Justice. So back-to-back days, we find out that Musk is being sued for defamation and that he is now the subject of a criminal probe. Musk might end up in jail, folks. We're not really in favor of jail here. But
yeah, I understand that prison abolition is something that we should strive toward.
Yeah, but in the
That
meantime,
said,
we've got
in the
some
meantime,
scores to settle
yeah,
with some billionaires.
If Elon Musk is going to jail, I am definitely popping a bottle of Rock Creek grape soda.
All right, we're going to get to some haikus a little later in the show. But first, it's Tuesday, September 18th, 2018. Here's the news. So it looks like we're going to have a public hearing after all next Monday before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh is slated to testify right alongside Christine Blasey Ford, the woman accusing him of sexual assault in high school. When Kavanaugh was 17, she was 15. This hasn't been completely confirmed by both witnesses yet, and the timing of all this it still could change. Democrats on the committee are sniffing out a strategy by Republican Chairman Chuck Grassley to rush the nomination through despite all of this, after just holding a he said, she said public hearing. Grassley is agreeing to the public hearing, but only allowing 2 witnesses, just Kavanaugh and Ford. Well, Senator Dianne Feinstein urged in a statement on Tuesday for more witnesses to be called, including Mark Judge, one of Kavanaugh's classmates, who was, according to Ford, the only other person in the room during the alleged assault. The existence of Judge being in that room is one of the best pieces of evidence that this actually occurred, considering this Judge guy seems like a real perverse creep.
Yeah, there has been a lot of evidence of Judge being deviant, possibly predatory.
Yeah.
In terms of his opinions on women, namely pretty much all of them.
Yeah. Feinstein also called for witnesses to be heard from who could corroborate Ford's story. Remember, she relayed this story about Kavanaugh back during a therapy session in 2012, and the therapy notes corroborate it. This is according to reporting by Ronan Farrow. On top of all that, there are new allegations against Kavanaugh related to his time clerking for Judge Alex Kaczynski. This is another real big creep, the former chief judge of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Kaczynski resigned in disgrace after an avalanche of allegations of sexual abuse came out against him. Kavanaugh has previously denied knowing about Kaczynski's workplace behavior, but a group of federal judiciary employees claimed to have contradicting information. The Intercept reported that an attorney named Cyrus Sinai claimed in a letter to the Judiciary Committee that at least a half dozen former judiciary employees had approached him with information about Kavanaugh and Kaczynski. Sinai suggested that the committee needs to subpoena intra-court emails between Kavanaugh and Kaczynski, particular emails that contain links to Kaczynski's webpage. Among all the other fucked up things Kaczynski did while in office, he also hosted porn on his personal website and made clerks watch it. Again, Kavanaugh used to be a clerk. Kavanaugh has previously said he didn't know anything about Kaczynski's behavior. Kaczynski's son later went on to clerk for Kavanaugh. Thing is, Sinai sent this letter detailing these claims, detailing the employees who would come forward but are afraid of retaliation to the committee. Never heard back. He never heard back from Mr. Grassley. Who knows? Maybe he will now. By the way, Chuck Grassley or Ryan Grimm, who's been reporting some of these stories on The Intercept, he's the first one to report about the letter to Feinstein and how she was withholding it. Also reporting this new one about Kavanaugh's ties with Kaczynski. He's been killing it lately.
Ronan Farrow, too.
Yeah, and Ronan Farrow.
Who evidently, I should note, since we brought it up, has the Apprentice tape.
Really?
Yeah. Of Trump saying the N-word.
How do you know this?
It was Evidently, that was what the Tom Arnold, Mark Burnett fight was about.
Really?
I read it on Raw Story. Granted, the website is not right 100% of the time.
I was sort of wondering what that fight was all about. I used to hate Ronan Farrow when he had that show on MSNBC because it
was a show on MSNBC.
Yeah, and it was just really, really bad show. But he's been doing some really good reporting.
Print is his medium, I think.
Yeah.
The Senate Committee on Homeland Security met today to discuss Trump administration plans for indefinite detention of migrant families. Officials from Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Customs and Border Patrol testified on the White House's plans to pull out of Flores, a 2-decade-old legal settlement on how long the U.S. government can detain immigrant families and children. According to experts on childhood development, keeping kids locked up in detention facilities can have serious long-term detrimental impact. No one at ICE seems to care at all about this, however. Not a real surprise. Here's Michigan Democrat Gary Peters and ICE Executive Associate Director Matthew Albins.
How long is too long, you think, to detain a child in a detention facility?
I'm certainly not qualified to answer that question, sir.
Has your agency looked into that and thought about it and reviewed the literature associated with that?
I don't know. I can find out and get back with you.
I'd appreciate that.
Seems like something that they should be looking into, researching if they actually gave a shit.
Yeah. Notice, by the way, Peters had him on the ropes, and he backs off. Typical Democrat. This is something, as you noted, high-ranking ICE officials should have been prepared to answer months ago. Also of note, California Democrat Kamala Harris questioned Albins about comments he made in late July. Albins said this about family detention centers, quote, "I think the best way to describe them is to be more like a summer camp." And here's how the follow-up today went.
When pressed on the statement, you said that you, quote, were very comfortable with the treatment of the immigrants at these centers. Do you stand by that statement?
Absolutely, I do.
You believe they're like summer camps?
I believe the standards under which they are kept are very safe. They're humane.
Have you ever do you have children, or do you know children that have attended summer camp? Would you send your children to one of these detention centers?
Again, that question's not applicable. What I can tell you is that I went to a CODEL there just 3 weeks ago with Senator Boozman and Senator Capito, and what we saw there were children receiving excellent medical care. We saw children playing in the gymnasium. We saw families sitting at computers in a library that was well stocked. We saw a cafeteria that was spotless with unlimited amounts of food with regard to when they eat. They live in dormitory settings with televisions, Xboxes, and a host of other recreational opportunities.
But you can understand the concern to suggest it's like a summer camp would suggest that a parent would voluntarily send their child to a place like that to have a good time for the summer.
Well, you're missing. But the point. No, the point is, the parent made the illegal entry. The parent put themselves in this position. They made the illegal entry into the country. That is why they are there.
You're here because this is an oversight committee hearing. So I'm asking you specific questions to gauge your ability to actually conduct oversight over the operations of your agency.
A quick glance at recent headlines indicates why Albins got super pissy there, in addition to just the fact that he's an ICE guy and you expect him to be a complete fucking asshole. In August, the toddler's death after being released from detention brought allegations of negligence by ICE to the fore. In June, a report by Human Rights Watch analyzed 15 immigrant deaths in ICE detention between 2015 and 2017, and 8, more than half, could be attributed to lack of medical care.
We're going to take a quick break to read some poetry. All the new subscribers get a haiku written by the two Sams. So, let's read them. This first one is for Jeremy. Beware the deep state, the low-level employees breaking the Hatch Act.
Thank you, Jeremy. Also got to watch out for that Logan Act. This is for Thomas. It is here at last. It's better late than never. Fact check Trump's trash dick.
Thank you, Thomas.
Bit of a tongue twister.
Yeah.
Fact check Trump's trash dick.
Yeah, that was. This one is for Micah. Trump stands there saying, "But my dick looks like toadstool. But my dick looks like toadstool. I have Yeti pubes."
Thank you, Micah.
Fuck that one up.
It's okay. This is for Jason. It's a dark day, friends. A dark day for those of us Mario Kart fans.
It is indeed. Thank you, Jason. This one's for old Joe. We meet again, friend. Old enough to remember when you were young Joe.
Thank you, old Joe. Finally, this is for Elizabeth. Coffee doesn't work. Sometimes, and then it feels like mud rocks in your skull.
Thank you. Oh, shit. Who is that for? Elizabeth. Thank you, Elizabeth. I threw my sheet on the floor there too fast. Thank you to all the new subscribers on Patreon, patreon.com/District Sentinel. If you haven't heard your haiku yet, keep listening. It's coming.
The agency overseeing workplace safety changed its rules in 2015 to improve reporting by managers when workers are seriously injured on the job. It doesn't appear to have done much, according to a report published today by the Department of Labor Inspector General. The study estimated that the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, is still only receiving reports on half of serious injuries, despite federal reporting requirements. That's 50%. Now, it's not out of line with past estimates on underreporting. OSHA officials conducted a review from 2009 to 2012, which found that half of businesses surveyed had record-keeping violations. The agency found that asshole managers and the pressures of capitalism are to blame. Now, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but this is from today's report, quote, employee interviews identified workers' fear of reprisal and employer disciplinary programs as the most important causes of underreporting. Also, here's another interesting tidbit from today's IG report. According to federal rules, either OSHA or the employer itself may investigate severe injuries, because nothing screams integrity like self-investigation, especially company or corporate self-investigation. Unsurprisingly, things tend to go poorly when employers assume responsibility for the inquiry, and OSHA has not been doing a great job of overseeing the system. Quote, for an employer investigation, the employer is expected to conduct its own investigation into the work-related incident and share its findings and abatement verification with OSHA. For an estimated 87% of employer investigations, OSHA lacked justification for its decision to allow employers to perform investigations or closed investigations without sufficient evidence the employer had abated the hazards, end of quote. So basically what that means is for almost 9 out of 10 employer investigations of serious injury, OSHA either has no evidence that the safety issues were resolved, or it has no evidence of why it was okay for the employer to investigate itself in the first place. It's extremely good shit. Also, the Inspector General randomly sampled 100 severe injury reports, and OSHA only performed the investigation itself in 37% of the cases. So that means almost 2/3 of the cases that were randomly sampled were these employer self-investigations. So the agency overseeing workplace safety doesn't seem to really be doing its job.
Finally, there's strong evidence to suggest that Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross lied under oath to Congress. During a hearing in June, Ross was pressed by lawmakers about his department's decision to add a citizenship question to the next U.S. Census. Ross dismissed allegations that the question was added to discourage immigrant responses and thus decrease public assistance to immigrant communities. Instead, Ross testified that the question was added at the behest of the Department of Justice, which was trying to obtain data to enforce the Voting Rights Act. Now, at the time, Ross's answer sort of smelled like bullshit, and now a newly disclosed memo proves that it was indeed bullshit. The memo was released as part of an ongoing lawsuit between 18 states and civil rights groups against the U.S. government over the addition of that citizenship question to the census. It was written by one of Ross's deputies, the memo, and it clearly states, quote, I spoke several times with James McHenry. McHenry is the Justice Department's director for the Executive Office on Immigration Review. Quote, I spoke several times with James McHenry by phone, and after considering the matter further, James said that the Justice staff did not want to raise the question given the difficulties Justice was encountering in the press at the time. So, here's Ross's deputy saying, DOJ wants nothing to do with the addition of the citizenship question. It's already getting bad press. This was around the time of the whole James Comey affair. So basically, leave us out. Don't rope us into this. But then Ross turns around and tells Congress that the Department of Justice wanted the citizenship question added. New York Attorney General Barbara Underwood, who is overseeing this case, reacted to the revelations. She described it as, quote, an astonishing, unprecedented conduct from a cabinet member. She wants Ross to be deposed on the matter. That's the newscast for today. We got anything going on in the chat room over there, Sam?
We do. Kevin says, I feel like an N-word tape would just lead to chuds thinking that saying the N-word is socially acceptable and not a whole lot else. Referring to the Trump Apprentice tape.
A lot of chuds already do think that.
That's true. Luke says, R.I.P. Toad, where our comrade DK at? Directing Titan, this was in reaction to the Trump mushroom wiener, says, I don't need these kinds of thoughts in my head. Alex says, Judge's YouTube channel, yikes. That's the Mark Judge YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah. There are all sorts of scummy videos on there that he apparently deleted after Ashley Feinberg uncovered it.
Yeah. And Kevin says, in the paper of record will publish a series of op-eds asking if perhaps the real racism is white people not being able to say a certain word.
Yeah. How about Barry Weiss today going on MSNBC saying, even if Kavanaugh did do these things, even if Kavanaugh attempted to rape this woman at 17, very drunk, should that disqualify him? Yes.
Yeah, it's a Supreme Court position.
Especially if he's since been lying that he didn't do it since then. Like, what kind of reasoning gap is there in Barry Weiss's head to think that whatever rhetorical question or argument she's making is cogent? I don't know.
Well,
the intellectual dark web for you, folks.
You said it. You said it, pal.
That'll do it for the show. Call the rant line 202-684-6108. Sponsors include the Congressional Dish podcast hosted by Jen Briney. Find it at congressionaldish.com. Another sponsor, levelnews.org. Subscribe to the free content as well. District Sentinel Radio on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or TuneIn for our daily news dump, as well as some other free bonus content we put up over there. We wish all of you, all of our Jewish viewers, and hell, everybody else, an atoneful Yom Kippur. We're here in D.C., so you don't have to be.